Hey YouTube, I wanted to give you a 12-month update on my foreskin restoration and how it's going, and also talk about some devices that I made along the way. So, um, yes, I've been using the DTR to grip the foreskin and apply pressure to it to get it to create new skin cells and stretch out in the same way that you would gauge out your earlobes and make them big and floppy. Um, and I have about probably about half an inch of foreskin now, and that foreskin is actually providing some additional sensations I've noticed, and I've also noticed that um, my frenulum is getting longer, so there is more of that sensitive frenulum tissue now, which contributes a good part of your sexual response, and I think that's actually a big part of where my additional sensitivity is coming from. I have a partner who's very likes to be very experimental in bed, just like me. And one night she just started rubbing my frenulum, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I was just like curling up, and it was so crazy. I was like, "Wow, I am really getting more sensitivity." I mean, I started this journey in terms of like on a 1 to 10 scale of penis sensitivity, from where 10 is like you come in like 2 seconds, and then 0 is you don't feel anything and you go completely limp. My function before was probably like a 0 to 2 at the very best, and nowadays I feel like I range from a 1, which is very rare to happen, but it still happens, to maybe like a 4.5. So even though this has taken a very long time, I am in general enjoying sex a lot more and want to have sex as often as my very high libido partner would like. So I'm having a pretty good sex life nowadays. I still can't orgasm from regular penetration, but orgasm from other things is easier and more frequent. So even though my days have like kind of a range on how much sensitivity I have, as a whole, like the trend is going upwards, and I continue to expect that to get better. So I'm really super happy with where I'm at. I think at some point I want to design a clamp for the frenulum to take that small little remnant and then stretch it out to be the size that it was meant to be per human physiology, because I think there will be really big gains in that. Now, the question is, of course, how do you clamp something that's like a millimeter tall? Well, I'm thinking that using watch parts and a very small clamp with rubber at the end of it could potentially grab that device and not put the frenulum, and not put too much pressure on it that you would end up hurting it. Um, so as my foreskin gets longer, my frenulum also stretches out, and I think that eventually I'm going to be able to either grip it by hand or grip it by a device that I make and get an original frenulum. It's quite amazing that you can just sort of stretch these things and they'll respond by making more cells and getting larger, and then that's part of your body. I wonder what other parts of your body you could devise, like maybe a circular or certain shaped clamp, and then if you have some of those stem cells still left in you, that sensitive tissue, you could expand that amount, and then go a step further than the regular restoration, where you're just stretching your foreskin and stretch specific parts back into the ratios that they used to be at before you got mutilated. The real interesting idea, and I'm gonna have to experiment with that in the future. But let me tell you about some devices that I've came up with. I started out with just the regular DTR and the push rod and everything, and I have ended up modifying this device a bit. After using the push rod, I noticed that it created a lot more inner foreskin than outer, and I was getting this very disbalanced ratio, and I had like sort of like a Sharpay folded inner foreskin, and it wasn't looking good, and it wasn't doing anything for me to have more inner foreskin versus outer. So I had to go the stretching route using the DTR, and I actually ended up cutting the length of the shaft so that the end result device would be very very short, because I like to wear shorts for the most part, and I can't have something swinging around and being seen hanging in my shorts as I'm walking. That's not very cool. So I started out with a weight that's a little bit bigger than this, and I used an eye bolt from the hardware store, and these are just hardware store washers, you see, and you can even buy an entire box of them in the appropriate diameter for your project for maybe $15. So it was, this is a $20 device, but I ended up ditching the eye bolt because just look at the extra length that it puts on your device, and then you've got to put a keyring on there. You have to make your device shorter in order to compensate, otherwise it's going to be seen in your shorts, and you don't want that. So I took I made some devices using threaded rod from the hardware store and just cut it down. This one obviously needs to get cut down, but it's longer, so I can experiment with more weight than I actually have on this. And then on the top I have some sort of bolt that I don't know what the purpose of it is, but I cut it in half and then I put a hole through it, and then this end device is very short and can very easily be worn walking around in public without people noticing. At most, if you're wearing black shorts, they may notice that there's a bulge, which looks like where a large penis should be, so it's not super unnatural to look at. So it's okay. I mean, if you're looking at my shorts, then that's on you. It's not something I'm telling anyone to do. So I don't mind people occasionally spotting a bulge. It's not like I'm trying to show anything off, but it's just it's okay to have something this short and wear it around. And also the dynamic tension of as you walk around, it's swinging around and whatnot, and then it's stressing other areas. Well, an interesting thing is they have a study out recently where they showed that like pulses of tension are actually better than just a constant tension on the foreskin to get it to grow. And so if you're walking around with this, you're actually getting pulses, and so it's actually quite a good device, probably an optimal way. You can make it longer or shorter based on how long of shorts you wear, but that's sort of the limitation is I don't want this to be seen. I want to be able to wear this. Now the one that I use at home while I'm sitting at a desk is this bad boy, and this is also hardware store parts and file and angle grinder and drill type stuff, but this can overhang your chair when you're sitting at a desk and give you a pretty good tension and a good angle. So that's why I use this extension here, and it's probably too long. I just made it and I need to adjust the length a little bit more, but this just kind of adapts onto whatever it is that you're using. So I do notice that when I have this downward force on my foreskin at the top where you have it clamped down, it wants to slide off, especially if you have it at an angle. So I also combine that with pulling upwards using this strap, and I usually put it around my neck and then have it attached to the device, although you can adjust the length very well and turn it into a noose or kill yourself. But that works for the upward tension when you want to get the stretch on your ligaments and whatnot as well. So between these approaches, the weight is working really well to give me more outer foreskin, and if I end up with too much outer and not enough inner again, then I will go back to the push rod that comes with the DTR kit and just kind of keep adjusting. And probably at the final phase where I have full coverage, my foreskin will be uneven, so I will manually tug for a matter of months to get that unevenness out so that I have a natural looking foreskin. But yeah, I'm happy with the results, and hopefully I've educated you in the process of making this video, and I'll let you know how the fronting limb clamp goes in the future. Yeah. All right. Peace.